Welcome to the Plantiful Goddess Podcast. My name is Jessica Caravad and I'm a holistic coach for women, certified vegan nutritionist, fitness trainer, yogi, and Reiki master. I have coached hundreds of women worldwide, and I made it my mission to help women from all around the world transform their lives and health in ways they didn't think was possible. If you're looking to uplevel your health, learn about the best practical tips on vegan health and fitness, master your menstrual cycle, improve your relationship with food, and so much more, so that you can reconnect with the powerful woman that you're meant to be, then you have come to the right place. My goal in this podcast is for you to help you step up your game, reconnect with yourself as a woman, and elevate your health and life. We are going to have so much fun in this podcast. Are you ready? Let's begin. Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so excited that you are listening to this today and you decided to turn on the Plantiful Goddess Podcast and be here with me. Today I have a super special episode for you, which I'm just so freaking excited about. I invited my friend Molly from Molly's Mornings into this podcast, and we had the most beautiful conversation ever. I wish we could have recorded like a 10-hour episode because we are so aligned with each other that we could talk forever and ever and ever. So it was hard to cut it and find a stop to end the podcast. But guys, if you don't know Molly yet, you should definitely check her out. You can find her podcast basically, or her meditations on Spotify when you type in Molly's Mornings. I found her through a client of mine, and I have been doing her meditations almost every single morning. And if I don't do her meditations, then I always go back into scrolling through her older ones, because she just has beautiful morning meditations that she posts every single morning. And so there are literally no excuses for you to not do, a meditation in the morning. And they're short, they're sweet, and they always have a beautiful message. And so I really wanted to have her on here today just because she is a freaking powerful woman, and what all of this is about. It's about really empowering you and inviting beautiful ladies onto this podcast that have an impact and that are here to inspire and help and support all of us. And so Molly has an amazing mission that I really wanted to let her share with you. So this is basically it. I don't want to share too much. I know you will love this. Before we get into it, I would really, really appreciate it if you could give this podcast a follow, if you could like and review it on Apple Podcast or iTunes. This will really help this podcast to grow and reach even more people and empower everyone, and just share and spread the word and how important, health and inner well-being for all of us is. So make sure you do that. It would mean the world to me. And let's get started. I hope you will enjoy this one. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. And I would love for you to just introduce yourself to us. Tell us who you are, what you do, where you're from, whatever you think is relevant to share with the audience. Feel free to share.
Oh, thank you. Well, my name is Molly Williams and I'm from upstate New York. And I would say very rural. There's more cows than people here. So way upstate New York. I live with my husband and my Bernese mountain dog, and I own a production company. That's my kind of main job. I'm trying to think what's relevant to this, but I guess I could get into how I started the podcast, or where would you like me to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for those of you who have not listened to Molly's Mornings yet, you have to. It's a complete game changer. And also just for, the people listening, how I actually found you, I already kind of told you. I didn't actually find you. My client found you, right? Which was amazing because, I always tell my clients they should find more time for themselves. They should find more stillness with things like meditation and just, things like journaling and stuff. And so I'm always on the lookout also for great guided meditations, because a lot of times it's a little bit harder to actually find something that's nice and that's not too overwhelming and that's not too long, especially if you're a beginner. And so my client actually found yours on Spotify, and she was like, you have to listen to Molly's mornings. She's so amazing. And it's so like easy to listen to. And every morning she has a new meditation, and it's always something fresh. And since then she's been like, telling about it to everyone basically in my coaching program. And so, when I started listening to you, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. Because the thing is, like, first of all, what I really appreciate about you, there's no like 5-minute ads, like, let's be honest. When you want to just like sit in stillness, and then like for 5 or 10 minutes someone tells you about like the product they want to sell, you're like, I understand you need to make money, but like when it comes to meditations, you want to find the sweet spot, especially if you're a beginner. Like, you don't want to feel already like you have to kind of drag yourself, especially in the beginning, to try it. You don't want to listen to your 5-minute ad. But anyway, so we found you, we love you. So I would love for you, Molly, to tell us, like, how did it all start? When did it all start? Yeah, I'm very excited to hear about that.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. So I actually went to college. I thought I was going to be a nurse or a doctor or a PA or something in that kind of realm. I've always wanted to help people. I was going to college for biology, and I started to develop a lot of anxiety in school. It just wasn't, I don't know. I guess it was just college is hard, education is hard. So that was coming up a lot for me, some panic attacks, that sort of thing. So I discovered meditation, and I was really working on that, and it helped me through that college experience. At the same time, I was missing that creative outlet in my life. Because I have that creative side, but also want to help others and have a passion for health and, that sort of thing. So I started filming my friends' weddings and events and that, all of that good stuff. And then at the end of graduating college, that actually became my full-time job. So that's kind of the crossover there and why I ended up doing the production company. But flash forward, I guess I at the beginning of the pandemic, I was struggling with a pretty serious infection. We had talked about that before, and it was taking such a toll on my body and my mental health. And at the same time, we were locking down and there was so much going on. And I really wanted to get back to that meditation practice that had helped me so much when I was in college and going through some of that panic and anxiety. And so I was looking for something. And as you said, I'm all over the place kind of with my podcast. It's always changing, it's always a different message, different technique, different breath work. So I was looking for something that had that same feeling, but I just wasn't able to find it. And I wanted something that was short that I could handle given my, mental and physical health. I just couldn't handle any more than 10 minutes at a time. So that's kind of where I got started, and it wasn't out there. So I thought, well, I'll just make this podcast for myself and my mom listening, and that'll be that. But it grew, and I'm so glad it did, because I have met the most incredible people like you. It's just wonderful. And like you said, meditation it's a skill, and it's like exercise. You can't just all of a sudden be like, I'm going to run 10 miles today. It's the same thing. Meditation, it's, you can't sit in silence for an hour. Like that's a lot. That's very hard. So I try to keep it simple, but uplifting for people and meaningful. If you're going to give me 10 minutes of your time, I want it to be worth it for you. So no ads, like you said, because I hate ads. But yeah, it's been a great experience, and I never saw it coming, which is always the best kind of, surprise and experience.
I love that. Yeah. Yes, it's such a beautiful journey. And the fact that you initially you didn't even have the intention to like grow this, right? Which is what you said, like, it's the biggest and best surprise. Like, yes. It's so cool. And I'm sure more people are reaching out to you and tagging you and like being like, hey, thank you for this. And now how many listeners do you have right now?
15,000, which is insane. I like every time I check it, I'm like, is this real? Or, is somebody pranking me right now? And it's from all over the world, which I think is really special, and also telling of how connected we are and how everyone is going through such similar things right now in life. And it's been a great experience, definitely.
I love that. How do you come up with your daily like topics? Because today I was also doing your latest one, which is like being in the present. And I honestly have to say, I love the way you like you build it up and you're very creative when it comes to the meditation. It's not just like this simple, like breathe in, breathe out, be in the present moment, but like there's so many connections with the music. Like it's so hard to not, listen to you and to be in the present, because you're like always getting the kind of the listener back into their present moment. So how do you come up with like ideas, and do you write a script before that? Like I would love to know more about the process of it.
Definitely. That's a really good question. So I don't write ahead of time. I sit down and I do write it out and I kind of follow that. I have a bit of an outline, but it's all real time. So I'll sit down and kind of let it come to me, which I think is why it maybe resonates with people, because it is live and it's what we're all kind of going through at the same time collectively. So it's what I need to hear often, which is so great. And I think it's part meditation, part motivational sort of messaging, I would like to say anyways. My goal has always been to really support others and to have them walking away feeling better than when they got there. So I'm always trying to incorporate messages and mantras and that sort of thing to really make it a positive experience for them. But the breath work, all of it, there's so many techniques, there's so much out there. So I kind of have never felt pressured to do anything but what, I like to do. And if it works for people, it works for people. And if not, that's okay too. But it's, definitely so fun to work on. Yeah.
Do you record one every single morning, or do you sometimes record them in batches?
I do it all every morning. Yeah. So it's in real time. Unless
Wow.
I'm going on vacation or something, I do stack them up a bit. Or if I need a break, I'll repeat something sometimes, but it's just as good for me, as it is for everyone. So I love it and I count on it. And it's weird to hear your own voice, of course, but it definitely feels good to record and, experience. But
Have you ever skipped one by accident or because you were sick or something?
Yes, I have definitely. I try to be, as you know, in this space, you give everything that you have, and so you have to be very careful and take care of yourself and make sure you're replenishing that and prioritizing yourself. So if I need a day off, I'll say, I need a minute here, but it feels good to me, so it's kind of a form of self-care in and of itself, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's amazing. So how do you handle it though, with like you still work full time in your production company, right? And then of course doing that on the side. I mean, it's on the side, but still you have to write it, you have to record it, probably do a little bit of editing here with the music and stuff, uploading it. How do you not, burn out, let's say, because of course it can get overwhelming. And then also, of course, I see on Instagram you're also active and you're connecting with people. How do you do that?
I know. I think about that sometimes. And there are days where I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm stuck. I'm not up for it today. And then I'll sit down and really I think about the listeners and I think about people that follow me. And I have been so pleasantly surprised with my experience on Instagram where I've been able to make real connections. And, Instagram, social media kind of has a bad reputation for being, maybe not the most positive thing, but I have just loved meeting people. And I think it inspires me every day to keep going. And I am excited to, record and hear their thoughts and connect with them about the practice. So for me, it's something I look forward to. It's really fun and it keeps things, interesting. And I'm always, mixing it up. So I think that's why I don't get burned out, because it's not, okay, take, a few breaths here. I'm always trying different things. And that definitely makes it fun. Yeah.
What do you do when you need a break? Because of course, we all need a break. Do you listen to your own meditations, or do you listen to something else? How does it look like for you?
Yeah, sometimes I do listen to my own to just test it and see, did it land? But like I said, it's hard to hear your own voice sometimes. So I'm like, oh, but I do a lot of other meditation work as well. I probably meditate on average, maybe 40 minutes a day is what I try to get in. And a lot of that's mantra work and breath work and trying new things myself to see what resonates and if I can offer that to the listeners or if it just, didn't work out for me or something like that. But I'm also a big reader. I love to read, and that's really important to me to just be quiet and go through, different books and learn different things. And so I have a lot of that kind of self-care practice that I do pretty consistently. So I'm very organized with my time, and I go to bed at a specific time. I wake up at a specific time. So I'm very routine based. And that helps, of course.
So you said 40 minutes a day, you take time for yourself to do meditations and stuff. So where have you learned about like mantras and breath work and stuff?
Yeah, so over the years, I've been practicing for probably over a decade, and I also have had just different experiences throughout my life. I was very fortunate to kind of work with a monk in Bhutan for a little while, so I've picked up little things along the way that I'm always learning, through books and things. What can I bring to the practice that would be helpful for the listeners? But I think that it's important for me to have my own practice and to really work on that. And sometimes it's longer, and sometimes that 40 minutes, I was probably thinking of a million other things besides my breath. So, every practice is a little different and some are better than others, but I think it's really important for me. And I stretch it out. I do some in the morning, some before bed. So it's not always 40 minutes, consecutively, but I think it makes a huge difference in how I feel personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also noticed that with myself. Like, I remember when I started meditating, it was so freaking hard. It was
Yes,
really, really
it's
hard.
very
Oh
hard.
my God. Like, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I just can't meditate, it's not for me. Every beginner feels that way. Like, trust me, I don't know any single person who, like, after the first meditation was like, this was great, I'm going to do it every day now. Like, sometimes, yes, but most of the time, because you're also very busy and we're all very busy, we just have so many things to do. Like, allowing ourselves to take these minutes, I think, is even harder. It's like allowing ourselves to take 10 minutes for ourselves in a day, I think, is more difficult for most of us, because then we sit there and our thoughts are everywhere about like what we need to do and what we should be doing. So for me, I noticed, like, when I first started meditating, I would do that in the evenings because it would help me calm down. But then with time, it was getting harder and harder, because instead of actually being in the here and now, I would think about the entire day, everything that happened. So when I moved it to the mornings now, it is so much easier for me because my mind is still clear. Nothing happens yet. I'm like, okay, I have, that time set for myself. So it's fine if I have, that 10 to 15 minutes. And then I feel like I'm a lot more clear. So it's also important because everyone is so different. So you should be trying to try what works better for you and which time of the day, and sometimes even like midday. Like, for example, I did your meditation, I think at 12 or something, just because I haven't had time in the morning. I immediately started working, and then I was like, okay, whoa, I need to like chill for a moment. And so I was like, we got that 10 minutes, girl, I'm just gonna put it on. And it felt so great. And sometimes, even that 10 minutes, it was a little hard. Like, after 8 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, can we just like get it over with? But sometimes, you crave that. I feel like when you start it, you really start craving it. Did you notice that with yourself as well? Like, when you start, you're like, I need more.
Definitely. I think that's a really good point. And it's always evolving. Your practice changes over time, and depending on what you're doing in that routine, it's so true. And I do crave it. And I notice, especially when I'm not getting that 40 minutes, or I'm getting a bit lazier with the practice, it shows up in how you feel and the energy you're able to give to others. So it is so important to find what works for you. And even with me, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll just be in my bed before I am, on my phone and scrolling. It's a nice time to just sort of go through your mantras and think about what you're grateful for and all of that. I mean, it doesn't have to even be 10 minutes. It could just be a few breaths. And I think that that's really helpful and really important to do if you can.
Can you tell the listeners what mantras are? Because I'm sure a couple of them don't know what
Oh,
it is.
sure. That's so true. That's so true. So mantras are basically statements that you are putting energy into. So a mantra can be, I am whole, I am capable, I am important, I am beautiful, whatever resonates with you. And I have a few that I use on, kind of a loop, and it's changing, it evolves. And I think it's so important. Energy flows where the thoughts go. So the more time we're spending on that positive inner talk, I think is really helpful and super important and can show up in so many ways in your life, you know?
Right, because a lot of times we spend more time on like negative self-talk, or most of us, right? We're like, oh, I failed this and I can't do this. So that's why when we use mantras, we basically like rewiring our brain to like believe the opposite. That's why sometimes this is even harder, right? It's harder to say these positive things because we're so used to saying these negative things. So do you still catch yourself sometimes saying things that you don't actually want to say to yourself?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we say things we would not say to our least favorite person on the planet. Like we are so critical within, and that dialogue can just take such a toll physically as well, not only mentally. So I think it is something to definitely work on. And I'm constantly catching myself and, saying no. And mantras are great because if you feel like I'm a failure, you can spin it around and say, no, I'm a success. So I think I'm always trying to do that and really work on switching my thoughts and swapping and creating a different thought pattern. And I think that it's just such important work.
Definitely. Do you also write them down?
Sometimes, yes. I have terrible handwriting, so I'm not always as good as I should be because it's just scribbles. But it definitely, I recommend it to everyone listening. Definitely write it down and try to do that because there's something so special about writing it out and seeing it and really taking that in. Absolutely.
Mhm. I think it's pretty similar to positive affirmations, no?
Yes, definitely. I would say they're the same in affirmation and also manifesting. I talk about that a lot on the podcast. And manifesting is coming up with a really clear statement of something that you want and then putting energy behind it. So I think that they're all kind of interchangeable and depending on what your goals are, what you're hoping for, all of them are great to work with.
So what's manifestation to you?
Manifesting is co creating, I think, with the universe. So it's asking for what you want, being very clear in that. It's not enough to say, I want love. I think that you have to be very specific. And do you want a love from a partner or a pet or a family member? And then kind of, yeah, putting that energy behind that thought. And I am a huge fan of manifesting. It has worked so many, every time for me, really. I think it's such beautiful work that we get to do on this earth and to co-create our lives and to ask for what we want is a very special experience. Are you into manifesting?
Yes, yes. Because like the craziest things would just like happen to me. So I was like, oh my God, this actually is real.
Yes,
So I would love to
definitely.
hear from you. Like, do you have one story to share where you would like put something, like you wanted something and then it actually happened? I would love to hear about that.
I know, that's so, I was asking myself that the other day, like, what is one of my clearest manifestations? But there's been a lot. I think my clearest maybe is I have a Bernese Mountain Dog, Stella, and we went through a breeder and she sent us a bunch of photos and one of the photos was of her. And I said, okay, I feel so strongly. This is, the dog I want. And she wrote back and said, oh, she's already taken, they're, you get the last pick, like this isn't going to happen for you. And I was like, okay, we're just lucky to be getting a dog in general. So I kind of thought about it and I was like, I feel very strongly that this is my dog. I want this dog. I just feel so connected to her. And like a week before we went down to get them, the breeder called us and said, do you still want her? She's now available. And so it worked out. And I, picked her up and immediately felt that we were like supposed to be together. I know that's so cheesy to talk about a dog like that, but she's like our child basically. And it was, it was such a great experience. And I think just putting that energy instead of, if I would have said, I'm so sad, I'm so disappointed, this is terrible, I don't want to do this anymore, it could have been a different outcome. But I kind of kept it open ended and I left it saying, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And I feel connected to this animal. And so I think that is a fun little manifesting for me. But there are so many others in career and personal and professional. Yeah, professional. So I think that, it's not limited to one thing. Absolutely. There's so many things that you can ask and manifest in your life. It's just being open to it.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a wonderful story because what you said, like most people would probably be like, oh no, this sucks. Why doesn't like this happen for me? But sometimes like you still have to, what you did, like you allowed yourself to create more space and allow, the time to, or with time, like it just happened, right? A lot of times, like I had situations like this as well, where in the first moment, like you think, oh, this was so bad that this happened. But if you let time pass, like by 2, 3, 4 weeks, or 2 months, 3 months, even a year sometimes, if you think back, it's like, it was meant to exactly happen like this because it brought me to where I am. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I
I
love that so
know.
much.
I'm always saying that on the podcast, know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think that's so reassuring. And it just kind of realigns us to trust that there is a path and that it is meant to be. And I fully believe that. I mean, my life has evolved and changed so much over the years. And I'm so grateful for all of it. And there's little lessons and everything, along the way that have led me here. So, of course, I'm so grateful for that.
Love that. What I really love doing, what really helps me sometimes when I'm not clear about where do I want to go next, because sometimes you don't know, like sometimes it can get very blurry. But what you say, like if you want to really create something, you need to be very clear about that. So what really helps me again is meditation, just a visualization. I don't know if you've recorded one like this before, like visualizing yourself in the future. For example, I've recorded something like this for my clients before because I think it's so powerful to like allow yourself to visualize yourself a year from now. Like, what kind of person do you want to meet, right? Or like in 10 years, or where do you see yourself if you were to look at a big screen and you see yourself on a screen? I don't know. There's so many ways of doing it, but I think it's so powerful to like really sit and let the creative juices like flow to you. Just like dream big. And that's like, the dreams are planted in your heart for a reason. And I love that. So I feel like with meditation, you can even get deeper into it, no?
Definitely. I'm always saying that too. Meditation allows us to connect deeper to ourselves and we're able to listen more within, which I think is so important because we learn what we need. We learn more about where our dreams are coming from, our purpose. And I think a good point to make is generations before us were really kind of taught that you get a job and you stay in that job and be grateful for that job. And that's your life and have a family or not have a family, get the house, don't get the house. And I think that we're so lucky to have so many opportunities and to dream and to expand upon those dreams. So I think that we deserve to look ahead and really go there and question and think about it. And it's such a gift that I'm so grateful that we get to have.
You're so right. Yeah, sometimes we forget that it can get overwhelming, of course. That's why I think meditation is so powerful,
Yes.
because we get bombarded by so much information on a daily without us even realizing it. Wherever you go, whatever you look at, it's like our brain is constantly working, which why so many people also deal with anxiety and overwhelm and panic attacks, is because there's so much. That's why I feel like meditation now is even more important than ever, to really allow ourselves to find the way back to us, right? I would love to know though, because you said very shortly, which I think is so cool, you work with a monk or you learn something from a monk. Like, girl, you need to tell us more about that, because this is not just like a, oh, by the way thing. It's like, this is huge. So
Oh
tell
my
us
gosh.
more.
Yes, it was such a cool experience. I was working through the production company. We were filming for the tourism council there, and I had the experience to go interview this monk and then kind of learn from him and ask questions. And there was a translator. So that was a very cool experience. But really he gave me such good advice and I wish I could like be more articulate with it, but he said, it's really easy when you're in a country like Bhutan to meditate and to show up and to practice and to do this because that's a part of their daily lives. But for someone in the United States or in Europe or anywhere else, it's very difficult to prioritize that time and to develop that practice and go against the norm. So his advice to me was to just really own that and to be in my practice and that it would inspire those around me. So I think that that was such a beautiful eye-opening experience to say, not only am I helping myself by meditating, but those around me, my family, my loved ones, my friends, and I've carried that with me. And definitely, I think that was an inspiration for the podcast as well. Yeah.
I love that. It's so great to to have the opportunity to connect with someone like this, who like completely looks at the world in a different way and like grounds you a little bit in some kind of way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was the first time I had been given almost permission to take this on and to really prioritize it and make it a focus. My parents aren't the type of people necessarily that are meditating. Nothing wrong with that, but they wasn't something they were into. So to have that acceptance and to say, no, this is really important and something that, will change your life ultimately was great.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, like our parents' generation, they just think it's weird. They like, though they don't understand. It's like for people from somewhere in Asia or whatever, like it's hard for them to understand the concept also, of course, because I feel like they sometimes still think it's linked to a certain religion, right? It's linked to like, oh no, you have to be a Buddhist or like, do something or be spiritual, whatever. Which doesn't mean that you can be a Christian and you can still meditate and still believe in the universe or whatever it is that, I feel like, especially in this time, the world is becoming such an open place to believe in whatever feels right to you, for you to believe. So how was that for you? Like, I feel like your parents, I think you quickly told me in the email as well. So I would love to hear from you, like how that experience has been for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was raised Catholic. My parents are Catholic. And I'm always saying that on the podcast. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I think it's important. I say, the universe, God, whatever resonates with you. And meditation is for everyone. It's not, like you said, a Buddhist thing or Christians aren't welcome. It's not like that at all. Anyone can meditate. It's literally the definition of meditation is to focus on the breath. So it has no ties to religion whatsoever. But I think that for people that spiritually are maybe have moved away from a particular church or religion, meditation is a great time to really offer that reflection and to work within and to think about how we're treating others. And a lot of those messages that are found in religion or spirituality are found in meditation as well. And I think it just provides us that deep opportunity to work on ourselves and to acknowledge how we're showing up in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's huge because a lot of times, like a lot of illnesses and stuff like this are created because we're constantly trying to fill our, let's say, pain with other things like, information or overworking or alcohol or food, right? And what meditation does, that's why it might be so hard in the beginning for so many people, is like we get deeper into the feelings that we're trying to suppress. That's why it's so hard in the beginning for most people. But that's why meditation is also healing, because when we allow ourselves to go deep, right, and allow ourselves to really feel the things that we've been trying to suppress over the last 20, 30 years, it can get pretty overwhelming at first, but with time, like it has healing properties, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's, yeah, such a good point. Meditation, I think, is so special because all day long we have chatter in our minds. We're hearing all of these thoughts all the time, all the time. So when we sit down and we're forced to look at those thoughts individually and say, where is this coming from? Is this my voice or is it just noise? And I think that that is why it's so impactful, is it forces us to look at that and say, no, 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 I need to use my voice more. I need to really honor where I'm at and, honor my goals and my purpose and all of that. So it can be challenging because to separate that noise and to really settle the mind is not easy because you've been, 20, 30 years, like you said, ignoring, just hearing it all and suppressing that inner voice. So it really is a powerful experience.
So what do you do when you have a hard time, like just sitting there in stillness?
Yes, it can be very hard. I think the first thing is never judge yourself. There's good days and bad days, just as if you had a workout or if you ate something that maybe you were kind of like, oh, should I have done that? Just let it go. It's all about growth. It's taking it day to day. Whatever you feel is what you feel. Just, yeah, honoring that. So I try not to be too hard on myself for sure. And then you come back the next day and it may be great. So, you have those highs and lows with it maybe a little bit. And sometimes I show up and I'm not a crier, but I'll cry the whole time. You really, every day is different and it brings something new. And I think that when the chatter in the mind does kick up, I'm always just saying, not now, not now, let this go now, leave this behind. And that usually helps me kind of realign and prioritize it. Cause it's 10 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're in it, sometimes, like you were saying, it can be, tricky. But if you can just say, this is my 10 minutes, not now, it helps a lot.
Yes. Has meditation also helped you with like becoming more creative? Because of course, especially if you're meditating for longer than 10 minutes, you can kind of change also your brain waves, right? And get more into like the creative space. Like for me, I noticed whenever I'm like in a very deep meditation, sometimes things pop up in my mind where I have to literally stop the meditation and write it down, because I know if I get out of it, I will forget about it. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, definitely. I call those breakthroughs, which is nice. And it's good that you stop and acknowledge it, because some people think I should ignore it. But something like that, when you really feel it and that's sort of your inner voice coming through, I think it's so important to listen to. But meditation, and a big part of what I do on the podcast, is releasing negative energy, toxicity, fears, worries, doubts, letting that kind of go. And in the process of letting go, we open up all this space within to fill with new things. So I think that where the creative energy comes in is just opening that space and not holding on to any conflict or, that inner negative chatter. It's letting go in order to open yourself up to receive. So that's definitely my experience as far as creativity.
Yeah. Do you also work with chakras?
Yes, I love working with chakras. I think that that's one of my favorites, maybe. And I find the creative energy really comes from that, when we're opening up those blocks. And I'm always testing it out on the podcast, and it's been very well received. So that's nice, because it's not for everyone. But I think the more we learn, there's just so many wonderful things to it, especially, in your work. I think that it's crucial.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm also a Reiki master, so I did it this year, and I never thought that I would be able to realize or to feel how many blocks I actually have in my body. Because in the beginning of this year, when, I've had my coaching business now since last year around January, and the first year was pretty good, but I came to a point beginning of this year where I felt like something was blocking me and I just couldn't get to it. I was like, what the F is going on? I was like, something is wrong. And I just couldn't, sometimes we're just like, something's off, but I don't know what it is, because from the outside, everything is great in my life. So why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? And so I had to work with, I worked with two people on it, where they helped me really open up those blocked chakras. And that was amazing work as well, which was, that person basically put me into a deep meditation state and did her clearing on me, which was, an experience out of this world. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but like, you feel everything just moving in your body, which was crazy. Yes. So did you ever have a Reiki healing before?
I have. And it's so true. If you haven't had that and you're listening, I would highly recommend it. Even if you don't feel a particular block, there's a lot of energy in the body that we don't even really know about. Things tend to get stuck, in certain places, certain unresolved conflicts or negative energy. It just shows up in the body. So I think it's really an important thing if you have access to that, to try.
Definitely. Yeah. And again, like in combination with like meditation, you can also do that yourself, right? Like if you feel like your heart is blocked or something, maybe you've done it before, like breathing into your heart or breathing into like your womb space or anything like this. Like there's just so many ways and easy ways for you to do that at home as well. Like you don't necessarily need a Reiki healer.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. I do every so often. I try to do it nightly, but I don't always get to it. Is like you said, kind of breathing into certain areas and just even bringing the hands over the body, just hovering, a few inches and just breathing, and breathing is so helpful. And then I love the sweeping of the energy.
Yes.
When it's done, just sweeping away from the, the air, and you feel better. Even just doing it yourself, it makes a huge, huge difference. And a story I have about chakras is I lost my voice. This happens every once in a while, but I lost it for an entire summer one time, just had barely any voice at all. And I had no idea what to do, went to the doctors, went everywhere. I saw someone and they said, you have a block in your throat chakra. And it said, are you using your voice? And I thought, no, I'm not using my voice because I have no voice. But kind of come to find out, I had been suppressing some of my opinions, I'm a little bit shy and I'm not super outspoken. And I just kind of keep to myself, more introverted. And she said, you need to start speaking up and you need to start using your voice. And I really took that to heart and worked on it, started this podcast. It was part of that, an extension of that. And I'm so grateful because it came back. And now every once in a while, I think I mentioned to you that it was getting a little, bad the other day. And so I'm really super aware. I totally believe in it for sure.
That's a crazy story. Yeah. I love that because everything is linked. Like it doesn't always have to be like a physical illness that we have, right? And that's why like meditation is so powerful, because a lot of times we tend to go to the doctors every single little, like, let's say, problem that we have. While I wouldn't say most of it, but a lot of the things are caused by stress, are caused by emotional overwhelm, or what you experience, like not speaking up for yourself or not speaking your truth, right? So I feel like there's just so much more to it that I feel like our Western society still needs to learn, because the guys over there, in Asia, they know their stuff. For us, it's still pretty new. So I feel like, the work that you do is even more important because it makes it so accessible to every single person listening. And I'm sure, girls that are listening to you are thinking like, oh my God, Molly's so amazing. I wish I could do that. I'm sure I know that because I was thinking the same. I was like, this girl is just amazing for doing it and being so creative and helping people. And I know some of the girls are probably listening and think to themselves, I wish I had the courage to do something like this. I wish I had the courage to go out there and live my dream. How was that for you? How would you tell, a beautiful woman that is like scared to actually go out there and live her dream?
I love that so much. I mean, as I mentioned, I was super shy all growing up and hated talking to people, hated public speaking. I think that I would just say, why not? I ask myself that all the time. Why not? Take the chance, follow your purpose. Why not? I think that we're all here on this earth to not only have a life, but to live. And I always say that because it's so important to remember we have this one chance. What's the worst thing that can happen? Like, I started this podcast thinking it would be my mom and I, and to see it grow is such a beautiful opportunity. And you think that people are watching your every move and that they're really invested in what you're doing, but most people are focused on themselves. So I think that do it for you. Take this opportunity. What is the worst thing that can happen, honestly? And I think that meditation allows us, like we had said before, to get in touch with that purpose and that strength and to listen to that inner voice. So using that guidance. And if you feel called to do something, you owe it to yourself and the world, honestly, to do it. We impact the world so much more than we really realize, and we're so capable. So why not? I guess would be my advice.
I love that. And I want to get a little bit deeper onto that because I attract a lot of women into my coaching programs, a lot of moms, just generally a lot of women that don't know how to put themselves first. They have a hard time. Of course, they have children they have to take care of, or just generally maybe have a family member, or just work a lot and have a husband or a boyfriend or a partner they have to take care of as well. And so they have a hard time putting themselves first, and then they feel drained, exhausted and stuff. So what would you say to that type of person?
I think that's a really interesting thing. And it's hard for anyone, parents, even without kids, it can be really hard. But I think my thought process would be, think about your parent or your guardian growing up. If they were in a bad mood, how did that impact you as a child? You probably didn't feel very good. You can feel that energy in your home when someone's upset, when someone's depleted, when someone's burned out. So I think that taking that 10 minutes, taking that time to incorporate movement, to work with someone like you and to take care of yourself, that's going to show up for everyone in your life and people beyond your life. And that's that kind of impact is greater than you could ever possibly know. Even smiling at someone in a grocery store because you just had a great workout or you meditated can show up in that person's life and, have such a domino effect. So I think that we have to prioritize ourselves. It's required of us because it allows us to do our best work. It allows us to impact our families in positive ways. And so take that time. You deserve that time. And those around you deserve that time, honestly.
I love that you said that, because that's exactly what I always say to my clients. Because, for example, personal story of mine, my mom, she would work so much, right? She would always work so much because we didn't have a lot of money. So she worked 2 jobs and she was also depleted. Like, I literally saw her always being super tired and working, her butt off to pay for us. And now that I'm older, I think back and I understood what was going on. I never understood why she would be so mean. She didn't want to be mean to me, but what you said, like, she was just so tired that she didn't have energy to be there with me or to have fun and stuff, because all she would do on the weekends as well as work. And now thinking back, like, this is always kind of the argument that I also tell other women. It's like, especially if they have a child, like, do you want to spend time with your child? If you're depleted, like, you will not be able to do that. That's why I always tell them, like, prioritizing yourself doesn't mean that you're not loving your child anymore and that you're neglecting your family or your friends. It means that you actually love them and you want to be their best version. And like, I feel like it's changing, but still so many are not grasping that concept. And it took me as well for a long time to understand that, because of course, working with clients that need help, I would always be there and help them until I also hit a point in my career where I was like, hey, I can no longer continue working 7 days a week if I don't take time for myself, right? So how is that for you? Because we already had that kind of with Molly's mornings and then your production. I don't know how many hours you work, but I'm sure you also have moments sometimes where you're like, oh my God, I just feel drained, I need a break.
Oh, definitely. I feel that all the time. And I think we view self-care as, taking away from other things, taking away from your kids, but I really try to focus on, no, it's adding more energy. It's adding more time. I can stay up a little bit later. I can have more fun. I can have more experiences and be present with people. So it does get tough. I mean, I try to be very careful in how many hours I work. I try to turn my phone off a lot, and I've been doing this for many years now. So at first, of course, it was different than it is now. It's evolved, and my own practice has helped really shift those priorities. The pandemic, I think, for a lot of people, put things into perspective and how we view work and, what needs to come first. And I think that I'm always saying, work is something I do. It's not who I am. And I need to have a life outside of this. So I really try to be good about that and focus. And when I'm working, I'm not on my phone or doing a million things. I try to devote those hours, and I often get it done, in just a few short hours in the morning or something. So for me, I try to really compartmentalize my time, I guess.
I love that you said that you're not your work, because I feel like, especially if you have your own business, it's very easy to identify with it. And that was a problem with me as well. When I first started, I was like, I am a coach and that's what I do every day, every hour, every minute of my life. And I still have a hard time with setting those boundaries, because you know it yourself, when you're self-employed, you could work forever. You could always do something. Right?
So true. It's so true. You go to a self-employment direction because you want to avoid the work week, the 9 to 5, and then you end up working harder and, 7 days a week suddenly. But, it has its pros and cons for sure.
That's why if someone's listening to this and wants to, have their own business, from the very beginning, create those routines for yourself, create that self time and that boundaries as well for yourself. because later on it's going to be difficult. If you've just been so used to like just doing work, what happened to me, that it was hard for me to then actually schedule some time for me. So I feel like I'm sure you would agree as well. Like from the beginning, when you start your business, already have that time set for yourself, because that's what you're saying. Like it's going to fill you up with energy and then give you more energy to do your work, instead of like spending 10 hours being super tired and trying to do things. Like you can get it done quicker because you have refueled your energy, basically, right?
Absolutely. And I'm always coming back to my why. So, if you're establishing a business, just having a really clear sense of why you're doing it. And that allows you to create those boundaries with people and have a bit more of a strict routine. Because if your why is to, have more time to experience life, to make your own schedule, to, do all of those things, do all of those things, take
Yeah.
advantage of that. Remember why you got started in it in the first place.
Yes, definitely. Amazing, Molly. So if you were to describe meditation, how would you describe it? Because meditation is not only what you do in the morning, in like 10 minutes, right? There's so much more to it. So I would love to hear like your definition on meditation.
Ooh, that's really good. I would say meditation is a life-changing inner journey. That's how I would describe it. I think that it is an experience like no other. It's always changing. There's always new tools and techniques that you can do. It's building that relationship with yourself. And it sounds so crazy because we're like, we have a relationship with ourselves. But until you really get into meditation and start asking yourself some of these questions, you're like, do I even know myself at all? How am I feeling? I never ask myself, how am I doing today? What do I need today? So I think that connection is so important, and meditation allows us to do that and really develop that inner voice and trust that
Mhm.
inner voice. And so it's a journey. It's a journey to self-discovery, and you learn so much, and it's a great experience.
So what would you tell someone that has never meditated? Like what would be like your top 3 tips for someone that's a beginner?
I think the first tip is to never say, oh, this won't work for me. Meditation doesn't work for me. I could never sit for 10 minutes. I could never sit still like that, because there's so many different, like I just said, so many different tools and techniques. There's EFT that uses your hands for tapping. So if you're somebody that needs to be moving your hands all the time, there's a technique and tool for you. Or if you'd rather, do a visualization where you're, you know, doing a grounding exercise or something like that, there's a practice for you there too. So I think you can find something that's going to resonate with you. So don't give up and don't automatically say, this isn't for me. I think my second piece of advice would be, there's kind of, and this is where I maybe am a little bit of a disruptor in the meditation space. I don't believe that you need to hold the perfect posture or to, have the most straight back and the longest spine and, the perfect mudra or something. I think that you can just be comfortable. So find a space that resonates with you, that feels good. Lay down, be in your bed, whatever you feel like, just get comfortable and give yourself that time. And I don't know. The third thing I think would be, have fun with it. If you're just getting started, it's not a chore. It's not, something that should be, something that you have to do. I think it can be really fun. So make it an experience and burn a candle or do a sheet mask or, something that's going to be fun for you, because ultimately it is for you. It's your time, and take it and enjoy it.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. This is actually super valuable. I've never, like, these tips are really, really great. And also like the last part, have fun. And also like, just even if it's like a walking meditation, right? Like these things exist. Like what you said, try it out, see what works for you. Last question, Molly. What are your future plans?
Ooh, I have a lot of future plans, but I'm actually in the process of developing an app that's going to extend the work I do on the podcast. So I'm very excited about that. Molly's Morning is primarily morning. So I'm hoping to add a lot of sleep content and that sort of thing, and just dive deeper into some of the things that I do on the podcast. So it's been fun to work on, and I'm really excited about it. And I hope that, it resonates with people.
Yes, let me know once it's up so I can promote you as well. That would be really cool. Gonna be your first, very first, probably your boyfriend or husband? Husband,
Yes,
right?
husband. Yeah.
He's gonna be the first. I'm gonna be this. No, your mom, and then it's gonna be me. Okay.
Sounds great.
Promise.
Appreciate that. Okay, I've got 3 people.
Yes, you already got 3 people, and then I'm sure the rest of the world is gonna follow super quickly. So it's gonna be so amazing. I'm so excited. Such a beautiful future ahead of you, and I'm sure like this app is gonna do so well because you're really already doing so much good for us. So thank you so much for changing the way we view meditation, making it so easy, accessible for us. You're really changing the world, and we need more people like you. So very, very grateful for you, Molly, and very grateful that you took your time today with me here. It was so amazing. We can talk for hours. I feel like that's the problem. Like sometimes we need to have a cut, right? But yeah, thank you so much, Molly. Really, really appreciate you.
Thank you. And can I just say thank you for everything that you do for your following, for your clients? Like, you're changing the world. It's wonderful. It's so fun to see. Thank you for being an inspiration to me and for wanting to speak with me. I'm so honored.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As you probably heard, Molly and I, we could have talked forever, and I'm sure you did have a great time listening to this as well. If you did, of course, as always, reach out to me on Instagram and make sure you follow Molly as well and you listen to her amazing meditations on Spotify, and stay tuned for her app that is also going to come out very soon. Otherwise, thank you so much again, and until next time.